B.L.A.C.K podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sherelle Hobson. And I'm just excited. I tell y'all that every week because I'm really excited about the guests that we have and the stories that they share. We've been on. B, how long have you been on for? A couple of
Since
since
the first week of August.
since
So
August. Since August, we've been going live, and it's been a blessing to just hear so many stories from a lot of people that we see all the time on BET, MTV, Netflix, and then we finally get to talk to them and know who they are outside of what they do. And so today is just going to be an addition to that. And so we do have a special guest with us today. Again, a special guest, and it's just going to be amazing to hear his story and what he does. You know, when we talk about the Black podcast is not just about um, looking at the podcast and then shutting it off when it's over, but it's about sharing. You got to share this knowledge, share the stories of people, so that way whoever's in your circle of people, your surrounding circle, your community will also grow from this experience. That's what the Black podcast is about. And so for many years, I have worked as an educator. I've been in education for 16 years. But I noticed within education, working on all type of levels with, predominantly white schools, Black schools, Hispanic schools. And I just realized that a lot of the stories were so similar in the Black community as well as our Hispanic community. So when we talk about the challenges of Black and Brown community, or challenges of Black and Brown young men, they share a lot of similar stories. And that's what somebody today is going to have to share with us. I'm very passionate about being very productive in my community. I'm very passionate about making sure that our young men who are involved in athletics not only just do the sport, but create a space of success for life, whether they continue to play or whether they continue to go on with their life to be entrepreneurs or businessmen or whatever their plan is for their life. But I believe that there's a change that must exist right now in the educational system. And if we don't decide that we are going to be involved and be actively involved, then we're going to continue this cycle. And so people know that I have a doctorate in sports administration and leadership. And my study was on African American men and their effects of athletics on their educational plans. What is our educational system doing for our young Black and Brown young men? And so we're going to touch on a lot of that stuff today. But again, I am so grateful to have our guest and to be a part of this Black podcast, because I have grown just being a host. So I can imagine how much you've grown as being an active audience. So again, I want to thank you. My partner here, Mr. Streak, is also in the building.
yep, I show up when I can. But I'm so thankful to have this guest today. As Dr. Sherelle Hobson mentioned, my name is Brian Street. I'm the founder and CEO of Your Legacy Begins Now. This is a partner of so many different organizations, so many different companies, where I bring together resources, services, programs to be able to formulate what's necessary to bring in a revenue to go towards developing and sustaining mentoring programs, specifically in the Black and Brown communities. I was working in Miami, Florida. I was a foster parent support specialist. I saw these teenagers. Nobody wanted to adopt them. Nobody wanted to foster them. They didn't get the proper training to be able to transition into adulthood and have any type of resources in place to help them make that a successful transition. I went to the administration about it. They told me there's no money for it. So I came back to Mississippi, worked on my master's degree, started my own company, started a nonprofit organization, developed a mentoring program, established numerous partnerships, and that brought me to where I am today, meeting someone like Dr. Sherelle Hobson and understanding the importance of bringing together the community to work as a collective to bring up the whole. I have to kind of tie this in specifically with our guest today. Back in 2016, there was a young fellow by the name of Reginald Virgil. He started doing these workshops on campus called Keep Calm, Let's Discuss Racism. So there were so many people who would assume that, okay, we all need to look alike and be in the room together to discuss racism. No, we need to hear the perspective from people that don't look like us. We need to see how they experience it, how they perceive it, so that we can formulate a solution together. So I'm glad that we have our guest today. He don't look like me, but he's gone through some stuff, and he has the ability to bring change across the spectrum based off of his experience and understanding how we relate, but also understanding how he can be of value to the Black and brown community abroad. So, I mean, I could go deeper and deeper on the greatness that I feel having a conversation with this gentleman can be, but he's got quite the story, and I don't want to hold back. I want to allow him to share that story and us to learn from that story. So, without further ado, who we have in the house today?
Mr. Fabian, how are you?
I'm good. I am blessed today. Thank you for having me here.
You're awesome. Thank you so much for accepting the invite. I know that you're super busy, but you responded right back, and it was just been amazing. I feel like we've already built a whole friendship. I'm like, damn, I'm about to California.
Right. Right. No, I love this. Like, you're right. We don't look like each other, and that's the beauty of it. You know what I mean? It's just like everyone, especially in the system, which is now spreading out all over the country. It's important today, and I just got out of the system. So like I know how it is in there. And it's just that when it spreads like the way it is out here, and even inside there, we're not even as racist as the outside free world. We look in the news and we see all these things happening. So I'm just blessed and happy to be here to show that I care and I want to make a difference. So thank you for having me here today.
Yeah, thank you for that. So we want to make sure that that we maximize like every moment that we have with you and sharing your story. A lot of people, they only see the end result, right? They see you and they're like, damn, Fabian doing good upward. He over there living the dream. He's living the life. His life has just been just awesome. And
right. Without pain and suffering.
Without any pain, oh, so girl, you look great, girl. You look like your life is just falling in place. It's like, yes, falling. But, a lot of times people don't know that, right? Because for one, I know that in the Black community, you're taught, you don't tell people your business. You just, hey, something happens, you just keep moving, you don't share your story. But we have to get out of that space of thinking that our story is just for us and being embarrassed of our story. And so one thing that I really want to begin and start off with you is knowing where it all started, where you were born, the dynamics of your family, who raised you. And if you could speak a little bit on that, just that environment where you were from, I think that'll help just kind of start getting people to know who you are before where you were at now.
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, I come out of Echo Park, out of Los Angeles, Echo Park, a little small community. It's crazy because my mother and father are both from around the same area that I came out of. My family's been there since like the 50s and 40s. My mother was 15. My father was 13 when I was born. And my grandparents on both sides, my mother lived on one side of the street and my father lived on the other side of the street. They met when they were kids and messed around, and pop goes Fabian. I'm born, and now I'm a part of these families that live right across the street from each other, and they're both highly involved in the gang and drug environment that goes on when you're a kid, in the culture, as you could say, growing up and we're really close to downtown LA, and the other side of the bridge is East LA, Boyle Heights. And so, growing up, it wasn't easy. I mean, we had like some tough times. Having young parents, my grandparents were always watching me and taking care of me. And my mother and father were involved in that whole lifestyle, the gang culture. And so as a kid, I absorbed all that naturally. and thought it was cool. I thought it was how we're supposed to be. When everyone around you is doing it, you feel it's okay, and then you're getting taught that very thing, or they're showing you without teaching you, actually sitting down and telling you to do it. You're absorbing it by just seeing it, so it soaked into me growing up without really knowing the truth behind it. And my parents, my dad was always locked up. My mom was, always in the mix. There used to be like my uncles and aunts were all involved in the gangs, and it was just one of those type of families, as you could say, like where it's okay and there's nothing wrong with it, and you grow up and you allow everything to just keep going on. The cycle continues. So with that being said, I one day was on a bike that was stolen, and it was handed down to me as a gift, of course. But they told me, "Hey, this is your birthday present, but you can't go far. Don't go far around the area because it's stolen, and you have to spray paint it and change the look on it because someone's going to come and take you off that bike and reclaim it as theirs. So stay in our area." During those times, a friend of mine who I used to hang out with on his bike, and his bike was messed up. So he's on my bike. So we're hanging out. He's on the bars, and his bike is messed up. Like he bought his bike. See, I could always stay at other people's houses, but they could never stay at my house because of the simple fact that there was too many drug transactions going on at the time. Drug use, sales, and just transactions, and we could get raided at any time, and people would pass by and be like, don't play at that house, mijo. Like my friends, they're like, "Hey, I can't go to your house, but come over mine." I would stay over their house, but we stay at all, I had friends that there was like 3 or 4 of us, and I could stay at theirs, but when it came down to my turn, you can't come to my house. And I understand why. So that's how it was. And I was on that bike. My friend was on the handlebars, and we seen some skaters, and we didn't know. We heard the noise; they were awling, and we just felt like we were interested in what they were doing. So we heard the loud noise. We went over there, and these 2 Asian kids were like, they got all spooked, and we're like, "No, keep doing what you're doing. We want to see, how do you make that board pop up?" They were skateboarding, and lo and behold, man, I was stuck there. I was like, I couldn't get enough of it. I was like, how do you make the board pop up? And you jumping off the ramp and doing a trick and then coming down, and like I was amazed by it. My friend Juan we were both stuck, like we were glued to them. We even asked them, "Could we use your board?" My parents, they could never afford these skateboards at the time. Mind you, this is the 80s and the shady 80s at that. And we lived in the heart of it. I had family in South Central LA. I got family in East LA, and we from the West Side. So right there, all we know is this lifestyle of drugs, and I'm half Puerto Rican and Mexican. So we stick out like sore thumbs. I got family that look like, like they could pass for black, but they Puerto Rican. And some of them get, you try to say something in front of them in Spanish, and you think they don't know, but they turn around and be like, answer you in Spanish and call you out on it. Like you're gonna stand corrected by them, So so I grew up that way, and my father was always like a stickler for don't cry, don't show no tears, don't cry, don't complain, and don't tell on people. You just take it, you swallow it, just take your pain and accept it, and then you'll handle it later on. So that's how I got into skateboarding. But years before that, I was in school. And this kid was taking my lunch money, and it was elementary school. I was in the 2nd grade. This is just an example of how my family works. I just want to say this right now. This kid's taking my money. I complained to my mom. My dad comes home from the Marines. He had a choice. You either go serve time or you go to the Marines. He said, I'm gonna go serve the Marines. So he went and joined the Marines instead of going back to the joint. So he comes out on leave. Mind you, he's been in the institution before. So all they did is train a convict to use an M16 and do all these, tactical moves now. So they messed up by that part, and I'll get to that later. But so I tell my dad, hey, man, this guy's taking my money, and you give me the 50 cents every day. The 50 cents is going to this kid, he's bullying me. And my dad's like, what? So he gets my pencil and he goes, come here, mijo. And he grabbed the kitchen knife and starts sharpening it real sharp. And he says, I ain't gonna let ain't no kid of mine gonna be no punk. You take this and you go and you do this to him and poke him. Next time that kid, and this kid's name was Matthew, tall Hispanic kid. He used to hang out with another kid who was a little shorter than him, and he had a sister. They all three used to punk me. So, and I'm like, I never really was used to this. So when they would come at me like that, I knew I could fight them, but it was way bigger. And I was a little scared. So my dad told me to do that. It took me a long time. I didn't do it the first 3 days, and he had questioned me. Did you do that? What I told you? Mind you, my dad comes home from leave and he's on the sniffing that paint. Back in the 70s, they were sniffing that paint. So he was doing that with my mom, and man. So they were not all 100% present with me when they were saying this, and so I lied and said that I did it, but I didn't do it. When I said that I did it, I seen the happiness and the joy in his eyes for that, kind of like the acceptance that I wanted from him, because I lied and said that I stabbed the kid with the pencil, but I really didn't do it. But in his eyes, he was like, that's right, mijo, I love you. And I haven't heard him say that to me in a while. So, and here I am lying. And so the next day I felt like real bad that my dad, I lied to him. I didn't really do it, but reality is I'm still getting punked. So it took a couple days more for me to actually, get the courage to do it. When I finally did, the kid just sat next to me. Now I know he was going to ask me for my money, but he didn't. Who's to say if he was going to take a break that day? But when he just sat there, I just started whipping on him with the thing, and I hit him about 3 or 4 times. And the teachers on the yard of recess they saw me as the aggressor. So they took us to the principal office. We didn't have a phone. So they called our neighbors downstairs, these Chris and this other lady. They were like hippie neighbors. And they told my father, hey, man, your kid, they want him that he's at school, and I think he got kicked out. Something happened. My father walked down there in his fatigue pants and a white T-shirt with his bald head and that look he has when he scared me off the top. So I started crying. He's like, yeah, don't worry about it. I'm going to talk to my son. I know he did wrong, but I'm going to make sure he pays for it. And I'm like, my heart sank, because Dad, you told me to do this. What the hell? Where did I did what you told me to do. I start crying. He just said that in front of the principal and the other parents. And he told the other parents something in Spanish, and they were like a hardworking Spanish family from Mexico. My father, a gang member from L.A., who Puerto Rican don't take nothing, no mess from no one. And he's like them other families, the other family of the kid that he said, he in Spanish, he shouldn't have been messing with my son. You should teach your kid something about messing with him. This is going to happen again if he messes with my son. And then I was crying. Principal was scared of my father too. Walked outside. My father picks me up and hugs me. I thought he was going to hit me, and I'm all flinching. Gives me a kiss, buys me an ice cream. Now he gives me the whole preach about how he's so proud of me and do this every time somebody messes with you. So what do? I take it literally. Every time someone messes with me, I pick up a pencil. I went from pencils to picking up a knife to going on doing my first robbery with my father, and escalated to just crimes and me being okay with it. But I found skateboarding, and with skateboarding, they didn't accept that. He wanted me to get a job. He wanted me like, what's that skateboard gonna do for you? That skateboard ain't gonna do nothing. And I fought him, and I want to turn pro. You ain't gonna get paid to ride a skateboard. What's the matter with you? Go, when I was your age, I had a car, I had a lowrider, and I had this and that. And my dad's funny. Like, he used to shave my mustache when I was like 12, so that it could grow out like him. Because by the time I was 16, I had a mustache. He told me, and he was proud of it. So I didn't want a mustache, but it happened anyway. And so fast forward, I start skateboarding, but I still have this mentality of not taking nothing from no one. So yeah. It was embedded in me because of my parents and the way we grew up with the whole gang and drugs being around. I used to stash their money for them. I used to stash a wad of money, but the addiction would make them come and ask me for it, so that there would be no money saved. As time went on, their addiction grew to other things. They moved from paint to alcohol and cocaine, and then it just like PCP, and it got crazy, So my house was toxic. It was toxic, and like, I know where it all stems from. My ways, the way I think, the way I used to behave, the way I used to move and act on people, and I would fly in a heartbeat. And so I don't blame them, because they didn't know any better.
Yeah.
When you don't know any better,
Now I don't mean to cut you off, but is that something that you grew, because a lot of times when you're actually in it, and this is just from people who have spoken to me about their life, because I don't have that same type of story, but when you're in something, it's like you're not sure. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, did you realize once you got older, like, hey, they just didn't know? Or did you ever go through a moment of like, man, shit is like really messed up, like, and then have that anger towards them because of the journey that kept coming? Like, did you always feel, even as you were young, like, my parents love me, but this is what they know? Or did you ever feel like, damn, like, this is messed up? And plus, do you know it's messed up from comparing it to somebody else? Like, did you see other people's life? Like, damn, my homeboy's such and such life is not like that. Like, what made you realize, like, okay, this is really not the life? And then what made you feel like this is just what they know and you just accepted it? Like, at what age was that? So that's two questions, kind of.
So I didn't know that it was wrong until I hit my teenage years. Throughout my teenage years, I was so involved in it that I didn't even think nothing of it. Now when I hit skateboarding, in my skateboard years, I started seeing how people were living because skateboarding was predominantly white. So I hung out with my friends that were white and Asian, and they came from Santa Monica and like that whole area up there. I'm from down here on the dirty bottoms down here in downtown. So I didn't have no idea how I walked into my friend's house and I was like, damn, this door is like, he had one of them big doors, them big old doors that open up like, welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Those big doors, those double doors that just open like that. Well, he had one of them refrigerator too, and I was like, wow, what kind of refrigerator? So I was just tripping. He had what's called a pantry. I had no idea what a pantry was. I was like, a pantry? That's like a little store in your house. Well, we didn't have none of that. We barely had anything. Like, we had food. My mom made sure we had food, but it wasn't like that, we always had food stamps, and we got to churches to get food, and when they were giving away turkeys, we were there. we got our issue, but it didn't last. It just didn't last. So me, with my friends, they taught me a lot about how to have a better life. And I gotta say, it's my skateboard friends that made the big influence and impact on my life to like be a better person. And I could have this. I could get all this if I just keep on skateboarding, but I always had to come home, right? Cheryl, I came home and nothing changed. And in fact, it got worse. There was a time when we all, we got separated because of the DFS, the system. And so my brothers and sisters were all over, scattered, and my mom had to work hard. My dad was busted in prison. So my mom had to work hard to getting all of us back together again. It was a mess, man. It was a hot mess, but my parents made it happen to get us back together and get back on the right thing to do. So, our community was filtered with drugs and gang violence. So it's like it's a lot of little things that contributed to the way we were raised. And I say we because my baby brother, I'm 13 years older than him, my sisters, and my brother got busted at 14 years old for a murder, as well as my father. They both picked up a gun at 14. I picked up a skateboard at 14. So there's the difference right there. My brother ended up doing, he got out in August, I believe. He got out in August or September of last year. He did 21 years. He did 22 years, from 14 to 35. He was gone. So, he grew up in the system, and that's all he knows.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that he's still out doing his thing, and he's starting a family with his wife and working constant. He has to stay busy, just on the grind. And I understand, because I'm the same way, like addicted. I was all of that. And at a young age, I was not into the drugs. I somehow fell into it as a late bloomer when skateboarding took a downfall for me.
Yeah.
And it seemed like everything else, my whole world was crumbling down.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, that's like, my friends were a big influence on me, and I knew the difference as I got older.
Right.
I didn't know when I was younger and in it. And, I would always think about that too. Like whenever I was locked up as a youth, I was locked up, and I would be like, I see the way my friends were, or when either I was locked up or when I come home from a trip, and I'd see all these, because skateboarding, I got to travel. I got to see all of California as an amateur. But as a professional, I got to travel around the world, man. And I got to see how good it is and how beautiful people are. And like, and just how friendly and what skateboarding could possibly do for me. So, and you'd be surprised, man. People make good money skateboarding. I made thousands of dollars a month, and I got to move my family out of Echo Park and into the Valley. And we moved into the Valley, and we got a spot there, and I raised my son, and my girl was there, and she just, everything just, it got really good. But like I said, I never had the program in my life. I didn't have anything, nothing to guide me. With all that money, there was no one to tell me, hey, spend your money this way, save your money, don't use it on that. Me, I was over here, I didn't know no better.
Right.
Too young, too hood, and too much money is a bad combination.
Absolutely. And so I've been in education for 16 years, and my educational career began in El Paso, Texas. So it was crazy for me being in El Paso, where now Mexicans, Hispanics, they're considered a majority, right? So it's like a different world. So I used to feel like a minority, not only a minority, but like a minority, like more of a minority to minority. So it was just crazy. But when I my very first, I remember my very first classroom, they were like, you know, you got your first job, and I was like, cool, you know, I get to, and I get there, and I'm like, it was elementary kids. I'm like, all right, so today we're gonna do this and that, and they were like, and I was like, damn, you know, it's I'm like, you know, aren't they excited or something? And one little girl, she's like, oh, miss, nobody speaks English, and I was like, what? Like, what the hell did they put, you know? She was the only little girl, I can't remember her name, but she was the only one that spoke a little bit of both. So I would be like, tell Jose to sit down. And she'd be like, you know, Jose. And she would tell me, like, she was like my assistant. I was like, I'll bring you whatever you want to eat, or what. I ain't supposed to be giving you no food, but shit, I'll give you something. Because I mean, I wouldn't have made it without her. But what I realized, I remember one day, I just started seeing that the students that I had, the same issues or challenges I saw within the Black community. I was like, damn, it looks alike. You know, a lot of stuff like either single parent home or gangs, or in El Paso, it wasn't so much gangs, it was more like the cartel. I mean, it was 5 minutes from Mexico. So, you know, you were taught like, hey, if little Jose, he act up, you just leave his ass alone, because his dad come over here and chop your damn head off, you know. So you kind of knew which kids you wanted to discipline, and some of them you just be like, just, you know, just go ahead.
Ignore.
You know? Just go, you know. But even in that, it was so frustrating to me, because I always felt like the educational system is the place that should, if the house is not where it should be, then we should be the people to say, let me help you. Let me help you, Fabian. I see you're heading in the wrong direction. Let me guide you, you know. But it's almost like we're trained in the educational system. You leave it alone. You don't deal with it. You don't get involved. And so for so many years, even to this day, I always felt like I was suffocating in my own truth, because I was like, well, why would we continue the cycle when we see that, you know, we would see elementary kids coming out, and I would say, what you want to be when you grow up? They would say a gangster, you know, I want to make money. And I'm like, what the hell? You know, like, and they were, you know, in elementary, they didn't even dream like kids, because that wasn't part of the conversation. When I went into the Black community and dealt with young, you know, Black men or Black boys back then, it was the same thing. Either it was, I want to be a professional NBA player, or I want to make money. And so I was just always felt like, what are we doing in education? Because it's not really benefiting anybody but our Caucasian counterparts. You know, when it comes to our Hispanic and Black community, you really just, you're part of the system. And that's why we always talk about the education to pipeline system. Let's get him through school. Let's say he graduated. Everybody throws a celebration because Fabian graduated from high school. You know, big accomplishment. Let's shut down the whole city. But then after that, it's like, where is he going to go?
Yeah,
what skills has he learned? What, you know, what else? Which nobody cares to think about or talk about. And so the system just continues to cycle those same type of kids. And so I remember taking them, there was like, at this time it was a UTEP game, which is a college basketball game. And so I was just always that person. I used to come home crying like, Dad, you know, he's just like, you can't change the world. You can't change the world. But I always felt like, I just want to do something. Like, I don't want to be a part of the system. So I remember taking my little money, buying Little Caesars. You know, Little Caesars, you got to eat within 5 minutes, because it, you know, it starts tasting like cardboard after, you know, a little while. But those kids didn't care. Like, they were just like, oh, oh man, she bought us pizza. You know, we're eating the pizza. And I was just like, yeah, like, this shit cost $5. But to them, it was like, you know, everything. Yeah. And so I was like, not only that, but I'm going to take you to a basketball game. So I put these jokers on a bus, right? And people now that I think about it, I know that why I don't have any volunteers to come with me. Like, they probably thought, hell no, she's crazy as hell. So I took these kids on this bus and we drove up to the university. Remind you, a university I drive past every day. And these kids, they were rocking the bus. I mean, I thought this shit was about to tip over. They were rocking the bus. They thought we were going out of town. You know what I'm saying? And we're going 10 minutes away. And it just, the closer we got, the more I thought, this is crazy. But I felt like it was what I needed to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that shit got worse though. When we got into that stadium and I started giving them popcorn, oh man, them shit, they were throwing the popcorn. It was just a mess. But they didn't know. You know, to them it was like, but then I was also at another school years later where I introduced them to hey, we're gonna go see a basketball game. They were like, I go all the time, you know, and I was just like, this is crazy. So I say all that to say with you, you know, you didn't know what it felt like to go in the refrigerator and actually pick what you want and have options until you saw other people's houses and said, well, damn, this is not, so this is life. Or, you know, you were able to actually compare that. When you have got into the system, did you feel like there were that the Hispanic culture? Because you know, when I always watch like Lock Up and all this stuff, you always see on the yard like you got your whites, your blacks, your Hispanics. It's crazy that you have y'all have the same stories, but yet it's still divided. Did you feel like that's what it was, or is it still like that, or is that just part of the story that we see?
No, it's divided. It's divided like that. And a lot of it has to do with the institution. You know, I believe from my experience, it's always been that way. And if we were all together, if we were all meshed into one, can you imagine the frustration that the sheriff department, the COs, and all of CDC are across California and every other institution? It would be less violence. They wouldn't have really much to do because now we start grouping up and going against them. So in my belief, yeah, it's always been that way. It's always been a racial division. You know, our tables are over there. That's the Hispanic table. There's the black table right there, and the whites, and then the paisas, they run with you guys, and now they have their own. And then others, you'll see them over there, a very small group. They're the most powerful groups in prison and county jail is Hispanic and blacks. That's it. Who are getting arrested every day? Hispanic and blacks every day. Who you see on these lately? There's been a lot of tension on TV. Is showing all these, the Chauvin trial just got found guilty. With George Floyd and all this, we came together to fight against the police. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but they were terrified.
Yeah,
they're terrified. I was in Pelican Bay when this was happening, and Pelican Bay is a maximum security prison, probably the highest in California for sure. It holds all the shot callers from each and every one of those groups we just mentioned. It's the headquarters, and they designed it to keep it like that. We're so racially divided, but they hate that new system now. As of 2015, the fellas that were in there that were stuck in the back in the hole for like 30 and 40 and 45 years, those guys have a petition to actually make it to where like now we can function together and sit, and there will be a peace treaty. So that alleviates the tension on the yard, although we're still taking care of business as far as our own groups.
But you're breaking their system,
and they don't
like
that.
Right.
So if we could be in prison and have this racial understanding and balance and play one another in handball, and there's no problem. Now, to each his own. If you have a problem just because you're a different color than me, then you don't have to play with me. But if you choose to, it's fine. If your history goes so far back that you got some kind of animosity against me and my people, then you don't have to. But don't get mad when you see it done on the yard, because now it's allowed. Before, it was never allowed. So now there's a new system, and it's being allowed all across California. I'm talking about the higher ups in the Black groups and the higher ups in the Hispanic groups inside the prison system have come together and be like, hey, look, we're going to do the Northerners and the Southerners, as like we're from Southern California, the Northerners, how they have their own little groups. So the Norteños and the Sureños still playing together. And they eat Cinco de Mayo together. We're all like eating and hanging out at the same table. We're doing we've never done that before. So it's a new time. It's a new day. And we think like this, wow, we're in here and we're able to function and to get along. And this is a hardcore prison with killers. What the hell's going on in the streets, man? Why can't these fools get it together? And now you want to pick on Asians, and it's like it's like crazy how that's not their fault, man. It's nobody's fault why this happened. It's just let's deal with it. Let's deal with it. Let's deal with it. The government, let's deal with these government issues, deal with these state laws and these police acting all up and using their badge as an excuse to go whip on somebody's ass for no reason and to shoot them. And it's just too much, man. I feel like, I've had my share of bad cops, crooked cops, in the backseat of a crooked. I've had my share, and but yet I know there's a lot of good ones out there too.
Just hearing you speak on that, I think this is a nice segue. Whereas you had no control over how your parents raised you, like. By default, you sucked it up, you absorbed it. That's who you became because that's the environment that you were in. So many people across the nation, regardless of what demographic you are, most of us come up believing a certain way, becoming or internalizing a certain way of doing things. Once you become a police, regardless of how you were before, you eventually become institutionalized. You eventually start doing it their way. Politics, you may be good and clean before you get in. Eventually, there's going to be some shady things that you start to do if you want to stay in that position. So understanding all of that, going throughout your life, making your transitions, how would you say you got from that side? I know it's skateboard kind of intervened. So kind of transition us to life once you started taking skateboarding seriously, once you got into the professional ranks. And I want to hear a little bit about this Cholo Tri. So how did you become this film star? And just kind of tell us what the difference in living those lives have become.
Well, I can honestly say that all the experience that I've had being locked up, I think to myself, if I could deal with all this crazy madness and survive riots and cops just abusing me, and not to say I never did anything wrong. They didn't just pick on me for no reason, but because I was a knucklehead myself. So they had every right to do what they did. I feel they went a little bit overboard with it, but yeah, they did their thing, So did I, and I couldn't wait to get my get backs with them. So all that, growing up in a house where everyone was kind of like, in my household, my dad was the biggest. He could bag on you. He was so good at bagging, at clowning, and he was funny, joking around. My uncles, everything. It was just like prison, the way they talked. So, you know what they told me? And I don't know if this is like helpful for what you asked, but I'll tell you right now, just where I came out of, and this just reminds me of that. They were like, I don't drink. I don't drink Pruno. I don't get high or nothing. I've been clean for 3 years and going on 3 months now. And I've only been home for 5 months. So they would call me, right? Because of the way my personality is, these dudes that used to drink, and they'd be like, hey, go get Hollywood. Go call Hollywood. These are the old shot callers over there, right? They'd be go, hey, man, call Hollywood, man. We want to call him over here so he could show us, like he could talk to us, because they had these things. They had these things in there. And then so they're like over here looking at stuff and they want to see what I've done, speaking about the Cholos Try videos. And they're asking me questions. And plus, like, you know, I'd give them my little funny spiel and then just do my little thing with them. So I was their like source of entertainment. And this all comes from just growing up. Every experience I had, even when I was leaking, when you get sprayed with mace in there, when you get that, it's the orange one. There's canisters. They got the big canister that's 14. It'll knock a bear down. It's like it'll drop a bear and push a bear off of you. It smells like citrus. That's what they use. I've had that dead on my face. I looked like Red Man. I was like a Hellboy for like a week. I looked red and swollen because of the mace, but I was still laughing and cracking jokes the very same day and after that. It's just how I take the good with the bad, man. I've always have, and try to make the best of it. You know, so my experience growing up, being in a funny household where my dad used to crack jokes all day long on everything and everybody, including the people we lived with we never ate at the table, but I'm talking about like just in the house. He was a bullshitter and he could crack them easy and he'll pinpoint things and people, you know, if you could make these people in prison laugh, if you could make these people in prison laugh and you can make these so-called hard ass homeboys laugh and they're the ones that just stand around like this all day, you know.
They really don't want to laugh. It's so damn funny that they can't.
Yeah, this is them all day. This is them all day. You know, and I'm over here making them laugh. They said, "Damn, hey, man, you're gonna do good out there. You're gonna do good out there, homie. If you can make us, man." We ain't laughed in years. We're not used to this shit. And you go over here making it. I think out there, people are gonna like you. And so with that being said, the transition of skateboarding, being locked up, I was addicted to cocaine. I was homeless. I used to rob people, carjack people, and do a bunch of robberies. I robbed liquor stores, hardware stores. I robbed a number of things. I've done all kinds of dirt. So I'm just waiting for the day to somebody to be like, I get so popular and famous that someone be like, hey, that guy robbed me. That guy took my money. I'm waiting for it. I just joked about this yesterday and it came up again the day before with somebody who told me like, man, one of these days someone's going to come up and I have to own that. I have to own up to that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm waiting for it. And, I've taken every experience that I've had, man, and whether it be good or bad, and I put it in God's hands and let Him lead me to where I'm at. Because, you know, now that I'm sober, and believe me, I can't do the soberness by myself. I need it with faith and prayer. It comes sobriety. Life is a journey, and my journey has been, you know, every day is like I'm making daily accomplishments and daily choices. You know, so I have to look at this book that I brought this for you guys. It's the Just for Today book. It's the Just for Today book. And along with the Bible, every morning I don't leave the house until I read that, man. And it just is good for me. You know, I can't tell you how happy I am to just be present in the moment. When I was doing those Cholos Try videos, just to let you and everybody else listening to this right now, I was intoxicated 100% the whole time, the whole way, whether I had it in my system or I was about to go cop some, but I was high the whole way. And that's just me being honest.
Yeah.
I ain't afraid to say it.
So, because, you know, in our community, we're taught different things as far as like, especially young, you know, Black men, Black women, you know, you're taught you don't show, you know, fear, you don't show hurt.
Weakness.
You find something, right? How do you feel like the comedy, or that your personality, do you feel like that was your way of your voice, like having your voice without it coming across like, oh, defensive, but now it's funny. So even though it's the truth, it's funny. Do you feel like that was your way of speaking your voice or having a voice? Do you ever feel like, because sometimes I feel like at fault, we can use certain things that we think are healthy, um, to cover up, the pain. So is
Yeah.
your comedy more of something that it's just your personality, you just enjoy it? Or do you feel like I'd rather make jokes than cry? Or I'd rather make jokes than to be hurt? But I'd rather make jokes than to be in pain. What is, and it's really not making jokes, I would say, just because it's like a lot of what you talk about is like for real, that people
Yeah.
sit back and they're like, oh, that shit was funny, but you're like, no, I really didn't know that. I didn't know you go to a table and they have 5 spoons, or 5
Right.
forks or whatever. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like it's funny when people are watching it, but you're like, no, but for real. So
Yeah.
how were you able to turn your story or your pain or your, whatever you're going through to something that was so positive? And is it positive, and does it feed your soul? Like, does something for you, or is it more like the more you give and the more people come? Like, what is that? I just want to know what your feelings are, you're thinking when you're just being you and you're in your element of, making videos and laughing and all that kind of stuff. What is that for you?
So in the beginning, when growing up, I think it was just like a defense mechanism of just for me not to feel that way, not to be in it, I guess. Thinking about it now, but I never really paid attention to it until I got a little older and started sitting back and being sober in a cell with all day to think about it. You got 23 hours to think about it, 1 hour to go to yard and come back. Yeah, it was definitely a way of covering and masking what I was going through. There was the social pressures of life and just the way you growing up. Like, you have to be a certain way. You don't cry, fool. What are you crying for? So you show weakness, you showing them like who, you're soft. And now I'm it's funny like you say that, because I took some years in this acting class, and I studied a Meisner technique where, I had to be honest and truthful. And I'm sitting in class with all these Barbie dolls, Ken dolls and Barbies, they were both like, they come in every color, believe me. They had the black Ken doll, they had the Hispanic Ken
Oh,
doll.
we definitely
Perfect
got some Kindles.
commercial, commercial looking, like, Mario Lopez dude, like, yeah, Mexico, what's up? Like,
Right.
and I was just like, damn, like, okay. But they didn't have no guy looking like me in class. And when I take off my shirt, I'm like, I got some tattoos, and then I got a certain build and a certain way that I dress and look
Right.
and talk. So teacher was like 73 years old, William Alderson, the best Meisner teacher in acting, period. But he specifically teaches Meisner. It's acting based on, acting and behaving truthfully, to unanticipated moment to unanticipated moment under imaginary circumstances. So it's like, you don't use real stuff. That's method acting. Use your imagination so that you can snap out of it quick. Because if I think about my uncle dying, and then I'm gonna get sad and stay sad. But
Right.
if I pretend, it's hard, it sucks to say, but you use one of your family members and pretend, you can snap out of it, because in real life he's alive or she's alive. So I'm sitting in there with this class, and he liked me more than all of them. And they had that commercial look. But he said, you got a lot to come. You got a lot inside of you that you need to get out. So I learned to cry. I learned to dig into how to make, and like at first it was just like, I was like, wah, wah, wah. I couldn't stop. So he like dug so deep that I can't get out of this hole. So now, so,
You're like,
so now I'm just like, he had to find that balance, and it took years. And
but how did that feel to like have that, because I know when people cry, you just feel like, like, damn, I didn't know I was carrying that. I mean, how did that feeling of crying feel to you? Because for me, I'm a crybaby. So when I cry, it just feels natural because I cry. You know what I'm saying? I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm sad. I just freaking cry. You know what I'm saying? But I have that hard sad too, where I'm like, I can easily not give it damn, or I can just really give it damn and be super emotional. So I'm kind of like this. But how did that feeling for you of crying? Because, you know, to some people, like, really, you know, like the fact that you couldn't stop, you know, do you feel like you couldn't stop because it's been there?
Years since I've cried. Years.
Hmm.
Years. Like I'm talking years. So it's now it's a little bit, you know, just this morning, you know, I cried because I didn't cry like a baby, but tears came out of my eyes because of a family situation, you know. And like I'm praying for my mother's health and my uncle's health right now, and I'm a little bit more sensitive to it, I think, now. But when I was younger, I was numb to it. You could, you know, I didn't care about what you were going through or what that person was going through. I've been to funerals where I'd never cried, and you know, and it just, I didn't like that about me, and I always wondered, like, why? What is that about me that I don't cry, or like I don't feel something for this person? I want to, you know, I want to. And then when it does happen, it would happen like in the car or something, just like out of nowhere, you know?
Yeah.
I just, in the bus or something, I'm just like, and just start breaking down. And it's like, what's going on with you?
Right.
And I walk away and it's like, don't ask me nothing. Don't get around me. Just leave me alone, you know? And let me have my moment. And it sometimes was like that.
Yeah.
But now I think, you know, taking these acting classes has helped me a lot, man, because you get to find out how to really meditate and who you really are, and like what your weaknesses are and what your strength is. And in life, I put all that, I use that every aspect in life too. You know, being clean and sober and just like, you know, a child of God, and just now I'm able to help people, and by using my experience to talk with kids at the youth. Like I'm working with these the youth in gang and drug preventions, like for kids.
How has that been? Do you feel like they relate to you just because they're like, oh, should he look like one of us? Or do you feel like you see some that you're like, damn, like that was me. He just don't get, you just want to get him and it's like, shake him. I mean, how is that journey for you, you know, now that you're paying forward, you know, because you're going to have some that are going to be like, thanks, baby, and you saved my life. And you're going to have some to be like, man, absolutely nothing. You know, at the time it means nothing, but of course later they'll look back and say, so how is that with you when you're in that space of paying it forward now? You know, do you feel like it, you know, do they get it, or do you feel like it's just so far? I mean, like, what is that like for you?
Some of them, you know, depending on the situation, if you're in like a juvenile hall camp, or if you're on the streets at a skate park or whatever, you know, I could relate to all of those. And I've been to every one of those situations and places to go speak. And I speak from the heart. I might not do protocol, and I don't do by the book thing, because there ain't no steps to this when you're living your life.
No truth in it, yeah.
There ain't no protocol when you're living on the streets and doing all the shit we do. So I'm gonna give it to you raw, and I'm gonna give it to you with my experience and the only way I know how. And if they don't understand it, I'm gonna speak to them in slang so they can understand it. So they will get it through their head. Because maybe you're not, you know, you don't read that much, and like a lot, you'll be surprised how many men are in prison who are learning to read and write right now in their 40s.
I believe it. 50s. I believe it. Well, I believe it.
But they're masterminds when they're manipulators, and when it comes to picking up that thing, they go in like, and they know how to like put together a crew and make shit happen for the dark side of everything. It's like for the bad, for the negative. Put that spin on it, man, and you could just be amazing in life, and you know, and you could be anything you wanted to be. that, and that's the message I'm giving it. I'm giving them that, I've done the same things. I've planned hits and robberies, and I've planned all these little things like, just when you're stalking someone, you're like an animal when you want to rob somebody and you're on foot and they're on foot. You ain't gonna just walk up brazenly and just do this and then act on it later. And you have to be smart. You have to be think, and you have to think ahead of time and where you're at and look around and see who might be in the mix of that, who might jump in for that person, and where you're gonna run after, where you're gonna run off to after, where are you gonna go, and how would you get away with this? You don't just and then me, I'm the type that I'm sick with it. You know what I used to do? I used to take a hit. I used to hit off that crack pipe, put it away. As I'm walking towards the dude I'm gonna rob, I never rob no women, no children. But I walk towards the dude, I'll blow the smoke out into their face as I'm robbing them. And then go. That's how sick this mind was working. So, and I planned everything out already. And then I took that last one, and I would, what's even more, I would say a prayer before I go do this. God, help me get away with this. I know it's wrong, but I need you to help me get away with this. I don't want to hurt him. I just want the money so I can go and keep up my addiction. I know it's wrong. Please forgive me and let me get away with this. And I got away with this for a long time.
Yeah.
Your luck runs out no matter what.
His mercy and grace is, people take that for granted. They think I can just repent and I can just continue this cycle. But at some point he's gonna always guide you, even in the midst of the consequence. You're gonna, you may have to eventually have to serve it, but he's gonna be there. But it's like, we just think we can continue to make these steps because God just keeps forgiving us, and he does. But it doesn't mean that you won't ever come across a consequence. I don't know how it is. Yeah. And I don't know how it is in your community. But I know sometimes for us, it seems like they say misery loves company, right?
Oh, for sure.
You have your side that is saying like, go Sherelle, and then you got the other side like, this girl, she used to do this or say that, or she was mean, or so people always are gonna, once they put you in a box, you stay there, right? So how has the support been for you as far as Fabian being who he was and Fabian who he is? How has that journey been for you, trying to, because people, God says he has a purpose and plan for your life. And he desires to give, he'll give you the desires of your heart. And the crazy thing is that only you know what your purpose and plan is for your life that he has for you by getting in alignment. And so while you're in this alignment and now you finally figured out, okay, God, this is what you've been trying to tell me. This is what you want me to do. Well, damn, if I could have been, if I would have got this long time ago, ain't no telling where I would be, is what we think, right? But it also means that your journey, you had to be the one to take that journey so that you can be, which is crazy, right? Like, that is just what it is. Our story ends up being our glory. But how has that support been for you, or that transition been for you, trying to convince people to change their mindset of who you are now and not what you used to be? Because I know that could be, how has that been for you, and what is that experience like for you personally?
Well, I have to say that, because of the dramatic experiences that I've gone through, some people would just be knuckleheads and continue doing, what they know best. And instead of opening their minds up, you got to be tired. You got to want it. And I cannot say how much I'm grateful and appreciative of the development of the spiritual growth, along with the social growth that I get from the internet and from people around and friends and stuff. and just the general living skills based on the program that I've been in, like the programs that I've taken in prison, you know, like I couldn't have done it alone. It's like part of the ARC program, which stands for the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. You know, I've joined that program in prison, and it helped my way of thinking, the cognitive thinking, my triggers. I didn't even know these words before, and I didn't even know what they meant. So now doing the curriculum in there has helped me study and learn who I was back then. I can't even tell you, like, you know, I'm still developing as we grow, as we go right now. I'm growing. So I'm my accomplishments every day, and every time I meet someone, I feel it's all for a reason. I feel it's all for, and I told you this in our conversation on the phone. I feel like we've met for a reason, and I'm doing this. You know, it's to help people, and I'm not here to gain my like followers and all that. That's gonna come regardless. That's gonna come regardless. They're gonna follow me. They're gonna go on my TikTok. They're gonna do all that one day on their own. But my calling is the stage of acting, which I can build my platform, and I can get people to listen to me like this. So the platform is what I'm actually going for. And that transition, the Cholos Try, the skateboarding, the movies, and all the stuff that I've done, whatever in the past, those are just little stairways. They're little stairs to get to the main platform up on top. And that's to get on that platform and speak so that I can help other people with my experience. And if that's what it is, and I feel like that's, you know, that's something that I can use. I have a sister right now, my baby sister. My baby sister, Selena, is on the streets right now. And she's got a methamphetamine problem. She likes to be on the street. She could come anywhere she wants. She could get help at any time. A number of hands out there reaching out for her to get help. But she's got to want it. She's got to want that new life in her. She's got to show us by first cleaning up, because she's came to everybody's house already, stood there a few days, said, oh, I'm good. And then what she do? She get up on that. When she start jonesing, she's gone. She hit the street. I'll be back. She never comes back. So, you know, you got to want it first and foremost. I want it. I'm done with that life. I'm done with even acting on anything. Don't get me wrong. I still have crazy thoughts. I still get those crazy thoughts, because that's the animal inside of us that'll always be there. But that animal it gets smaller and smaller. Like it used to be King Kong, but now it's like, it's a normal sized gorilla right now. And he's going to turn to a chimpanzee, and then he's going to be a fetus. And then little by little, he's going to be, I'm going to have him like little Michael Jackson's monkey, small little thing. You know what I'm saying? He's going to be small. But what I'm saying is you got to work on it. You have to work on these things. You can't just, you know, like, it doesn't happen overnight.
And we have to know that it's a process.
It is. Every day you got to work on it.
I think that's where the frustration comes. We want everything right now. And it's like, it's going to be a process. No. Like you said, taking those little steps, chopping away those little steps, you know, it's a process. And unfortunately, I don't know how long that process is going to be. No. You know, people say, oh, everything takes time. When somebody passes, it takes time. When I lost my brother, it takes time. It's like, well, damn. Is it an hour? Is it a day?
What did you lose your brother to?
I feel like I lost him. Well, they said heart failure. He was 27. And I still struggle with that, but I feel like it was depression. See, like how you think about skateboarding is the same way he thought about sports. And so sports was his main identity.
Yeah.
And I think as he got older, him not making it to the point or to the place that he felt he should be, right. You know, we internalize it. And I felt like he just dealt with a lot of depression, and I felt like it just affected his heart.
Because you can die of sadness.
Oh, definitely. And I believe that's what he died of. Even though from the outside, we thought of him as he's strong, he's funny, he always encouraged his friends. He was that guy that everybody loved. He was like you. He had white friends, black friends, skateboarders, hip hop, rocking, but everybody loved him because he was always real and he loved people. But I think the pressure of him, it was almost like, my brother's name is Jamil, so it was almost like if Jamil makes it, oh, we all make it. And I think after a while, the pressure of him feeling like he wasn't where he wanted to be, I believe that it began to start weighing on him. And, you know, it brought me peace when he passed, just because I knew that he was in a peaceful. When I saw him in the cat, it was crazy because I thought I was going to pass out. But throughout the whole process of me doing the funeral, I felt peace. And so for a long time as an adult, I struggled with, why do you feel peace when you should feel pain?
Right.
So I struggled with, why the hell do I feel peaceful? You know, I need to be crying. I need to be pissed off. And I had my moments, but it was like I couldn't figure out what it was about.
Right.
But I think that it was just the peace of seeing him just lay with no worries, no struggles, no demands, no challenges. You know, it was just like, how selfish of me to not allow him to be in a place of peace. You know, why would you want him to live in his own hell? You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people don't know. And I mean, even for myself, I had to realize that I had triggers. I had to realize that there were things about me. Once I took away track, you know, some of my struggles were somebody always saying, even when I moved here to Houston, everywhere I went, it was, you're so pretty. Oh, you're so funny. I never knew you were so cool. You're so beautiful. And you would think that I would be sitting there thinking, oh, thank you. But in my head, I was like, but I'm so hurt. And I'm in a dark place, just in a very dark place. And so it wasn't until I realized, you know, I wrote a book called Seams of Gold, Discovering Beauty in Brokenness, because I didn't really understand what beautiful meant until I found peace.
Right.
You know, and that's when I realized, damn, it's those broken places in my life. Even though my family structure wasn't broken, it was the things that I placed on myself of just constantly having to go, reach higher, higher, higher. And even like my counselor, you know, when I went to her for my grieving my brother, one thing she said to me was, you can't measure your happiness on accomplishments. You have already reached the highest degree you're ever going to reach for something else to do. But for me, it was like, the more I can go, the high I felt, but it didn't do anything for me as a woman, you know? And so
Well, thank you. Froze on us.
Little froze. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand all that though, because I the community outreach by feeding the homeless and giving toys to the kids for the holidays that just passed, you know, like I was doing all that with Danny Trejo. And I'm okay, you're back. I'm sorry you froze for a minute.
The connection or something happened, but I can hear you guys.
So I was just saying, you know, I feel good. And that I never had that kind of happy before. And it's an inside thing, you know. It's like, it's not internal, external. I mean, it's like, it's an internal thing where you just feel good, man. You walk away like it's like going to church. I go to church and I feel good coming out of there. And it's so funny, like, you know, I went to church. I just started going to a church that I really like, and my friend's the pastor. His name is Sean Mandoli, and he was it's at Hopeland Church in Boyle Heights on First Street, and it's right over the bridge. And he's an ex-professional skateboarder just like me. And, I got to reconnect with my friend, like an old friend of mine that skated, Billy Valdez, and, a few of my friends are into church, like Christian Hosoy, Joey Suriel. They're like very big and on church, and, Danny Minnick. I'm happy that I have these little friends that, that I grew up with that are now, because skateboarding is it's a sport like this. It's like you're on. Back then in the 90s, it was like that for us. There was no big contracts. We didn't have to sign any Mountain Dew or Red Bull or none of this crazy stuff like now. It's like now it's ridiculous, and they're making a lot of money. The pressure is super on right now. But back then the pressure was on just for us to make like thousands of dollars a month, which was good. It was good money. It's the community outreach that we did. It's something that I volunteer, and I'll like drop everything I'm doing just to go and do that. And I've done some with Trejo, with Trejo's Tacos. He donated tacos to the homeless in downtown on Skid Row. We did an event with Paulie's Project. We've done a few like with various other organizations. It's cool, man. And I've never had that before. I've never even done anything like that before. So this is a whole new side of relief and feeling good. And like I told you, giving back is something that I'll always do, because I've hurt so many people, and people that were just making money coming from work. And I'm not proud of it. I'm not happy. And like, that's what probably will make me and do these things all for the rest of my life. I don't think there's any time that I could say, well, I've done enough giving back. I'm good. I'm never going to be done with it. I stole my first skateboard. I could say that person contributed to me turning pro. Safe to say that. But is that good? No, I didn't go about it the right way. I stole skateboards from shops, ran out, just grabbed it, act like I was gonna buy it, and bam, gone, hit the door. Today I'd be I'd be viral. Like, this man's a thief. Let's look for him. Like, if there were phones out, but back then no phones, and it was not even no pagers back then. So I was getting away with all that. Today it's a different story, man. I just feel good about what I'm doing, and I put it like this. It's gotten to the point where I've even did a toy drive with Danny Trejo for the Mission Hills Police Department, and got to meet the captain of the police department, and she took a liking to me, and she asked me to come and do a Zoom with her for these kids, and I did. And she got my number. I got her number. She's on. I got the captain of the police department's phone number. Like, she calls me once in a while, texts me, and like say how she sees what I'm doing. And in my world back in the day, that would be a no-no. That's like. But now I mean, that's all we talk about is these events. But even just to have that alone is like, that's like when you going against the code, brother. You don't do that, man. So it's a big step, and like I'm not being fake with it. I'm being real with it, and there's no there's no mask this time. I'm not covering up anything, and the only mask I got is the mask for this pandemic, and that's it. And that's the only mask I'm wearing. It's a Lockwood athletics mask, because that's my new brand that I'm putting out. That's online, and I have my own clothing line out right now with my brand. That this represents the school that I came from, and it was a school of hard knocks. You couldn't skate this school. We used to go into this school and try to skate it, and it was gang infested. No one skated it before my friend Paulo Diaz and Billy Valdez. They were the first ones that I ever knew, and we grew up together with, we grew up skating. There's a little documentary called the L.A. Boys, and I'm in it. It's based on my other friends, but I'm in it. and I'm on the second wave of that path. They set the tone for us, for even me to do what I've done in skateboarding. So, now I've taken and paid homage to the school that we all came out of. And this school had a lot of history, good and bad. I mean, fools got shot there because they went and tried to skate there without us being there to actually alleviate the program. Because if I would have been there, that boy would have never got shot. And I knew those gangsters like this, like they was cool with me, and nobody would have got hurt. They used to tell us, hey, who you want us to jack, Holmes? Who could we mess up right here? Who needs to get their camera taken? Back then, they was with those big old cameras in the 90s. They had the big VHS cameras. Yeah. So, and I used to be like, and even though I didn't know these kids, I used to be like, nah, hey, I know them, fool. You can't jack nobody today, right? Not here, not now. Don't jack no one at the school no more. Go do your shit down the street. The school we needed to skate, and they're gonna make it hot for the cops. And so I used to talk to them, and me and my friends used to be like, hey, man, keep it cool right here with these, my uncle, rest in peace. They call him Shark, from the gang that's right there. La Mirada Locos. He's the one who actually allowed us to skate and be cool there, because there was this dude from the Hustlers, this big old buff black dude named Baby D. He got out of jail and was like, this is my neighborhood. Ain't nobody skating up in here. So we were like, what the hell? This big old buff dude came out with a radio. He was like Radio Raheem, but the ghetto version of him, like the hood version. He came out with a radio and started tripping on us. And he threatened every last one of us. He was bald, all cut up and buff. And like, we were just kids skating. We're like, damn, this fool, he just told us like we couldn't skate there. Like, so what do we do? Next week, he said, if I catch any of you guys here. And so we showed up again, and then he jumped the fence and started tripping on us. So after he punched a few of us out, but we didn't after he punched a few of us out, we fought back, but it was nothing to him. This dude was a grown man, and we were boys. We were kids. So he did his thing with us, but we still came back. My uncle's like, what happened to your face? I go, your boy Baby D did this. He said we couldn't skate Lockwood. My uncle's like, what? Yeah, he from the Hustlers. This fool came down and just let us have it. No, we couldn't, then we're like, he goes, nah, wait, let me go talk to him. So a few days later, he talked with him. He told him, you mess up my nephew again and his friends, you ain't gonna make it out of this park. So you either leave him alone or you gonna find yourself in a world of pain. And he just like decided to never come through again. When he did come through, he had his radio and he looked at us and he mad dogged us, but we were still skating. He was just like flinch at us, like, oh, I'm gonna get you. But he never touched us again. And we were able to skate there. And this was like in 92, 91, 92, maybe even 90, around there. So, and from there, that school became popular. All through the 90s, we skated. And like, so Lockwood has a big history of being violent, but we turned it into a skate spot that actually Rob Dyrdek and MTV and Red Bull had a contest right there and all kinds of, I don't know. I was in prison, but they did this. And then they, well, anyway, every skater who ever skated Lockwood back in the day, they all owe it to my uncle. My uncle, rest in peace, Shark. So that's the story on that.
Man, I love it, man. I definitely, we're going to, I want everybody to know some of the things you got going on right now. You can kind of share us the link where to go and check out your merch, so on and so forth. But before we do that, something you kind of went into earlier, you touched again, was the fact that whenever you're paying it forward, whenever you're speaking to the youth, you're going into these various different spaces, you keep it real. You don't go in with this, I'm Mr. Expert. No, you go in and you get to their level. You speak their language. If you got to slang it down, you got to slang it down. And that's what I feel we, especially those of us with all these credentials and certifications and all this and that, we have to be able to collaborate with individuals like you who've been through it so that these kids will actually listen if we haven't gone through what they're going through and we're this expert telling them what they need to do, how can you tell me what I need to do? You haven't experienced what I've experienced. So that can be very difficult. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there and, bring attention to that, because I had a couple degrees whenever I started speaking at the local youth detention center. And I saw the guy that spoke before me. It was career week. So I went in the day before, and I saw kind of how the flow was. So when I went in, I wasn't about to say, okay, I'm going to talk about this, this, and that, and y'all sit down and shut up until I'm finished. No, I went in there and I just kicked back. And they were like, so what you going to tell us today? We're going to talk about y'all. And they were thrown, man. They were thrown because nobody cared to listen to them. It was, let me tell you, not let me listen. So the fact that you've been through it, you go in and you actually speak to their level and allow them to know, look, I'm here because I care. I'm not here because somebody said, hey, I need this curriculum done at this institute and then come back. No, I'm here because I care. And I think that's just so important for us to keep in mind. And that's why myself and Dr. Sherelle Hobson, that's why we're doing what we're doing right here. Because we can't do it ourselves. Like, we have to connect with individuals like you. So some of the young guys who we're trying to save, we're trying to take in the right direction, they'll actually listen to us. So I just want to thank you, man. I know there's so many people out there that may still know you from who you were. And they're like, think this guy? Like, why? Why does he? No. What you went through, and this is one thing that I tell people that I train and coach, sometimes your worst moments were actually the best blessings, because you're going to be able to help change so many other people's lives because of what you went through. So, I don't wish it on anyone, but I thank you for what you endured, man. Absolutely. Because you're blessing so many young lives by being able to speak it forward.
Yeah.
The textbook is good though, but knowing the textbook and that's cool. I don't, like you said, I don't wish nobody to go through crazy experiences like that. But if you could learn about it rather than to go through it, I'd much rather you just learn from an experience and someone speaking to you. Because just like, this conversation we're having here, I don't know what you're going to ask me. And I don't have everything like, oh, let me go through this page and write this down. And it's just all coming from up here and right here. So you have to listen. I believe in having a conversation rather than let me talk to you and let me tell you what I'm going to, and I'm not going to speak down on you. I'm going to sit at your level and talk with you face to face and let you see the scars on my face and the scars on my body too. And, if you ask, I'll tell you what happened. And, these scars didn't come there by themselves, there's a lot of things that I'm still dealing with and I still need, to work on. So I tell them all the time by maybe, and I never received a check for any of this stuff that I do. So by me,
good, because we don't have no money to give you.
hey, that's cool. That's all right. That's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And that's honesty. And like, hey, look, so me personally, I just sit with them and get to their level. And maybe, you want to ask me questions, you could. I'll ask you. We go back and forth, man. Because I don't like being the dictator in anything. I never liked it when I was a kid. So, I live by certain rules. And those rules in prison, they may be a little harsh, but if you put those and pertain them to life out here, I'm not saying every single rule, but for the most part, like the discipline, exactly. That's just the foundation of the discipline, just the foundation of that structure. I work out, I read, I mind my own business. I know when to get involved. I know when not to. It's like pay attention, stay focused. That means for me, stay focused is like to read the book, read the good book, read my narcotics just for today book, because that's what's going to help me with those little thoughts when I pass by the same spots that I copped dope on before. And people that I talk to. Sometimes family could be a toxic thing too. So sometimes you need to, right, certain individuals, certain people that you need to cut off, then that's what you need to do. Not forever, but just for the time being, you need to get your distance. You don't have to cut them completely, but you need that distance and you need to keep them away from you. And it helps. So with me, it takes a village. I can't do it alone. Starting with God all the way down to the people that I surround myself today with. And, there are some good things coming up. There's a lot of good things coming up right now. And to be honest with you, a lot of them are like autism events and Down syndrome, homeless, because the homeless population in LA was always big. But now with this pandemic, it just like, you got people out here that don't even be on the tent. Keep it real. They shouldn't be in no tent. They just taking advantage of the situation because they getting a little stimulus, and then now they serving dope out of their tents and using that as a decoy to go and make a little, let's make some money, and it's the fast way, and so anyway, that's a whole nother topic, man. But
so where can they go to find the Lockwood athletics gear?
They could go to Lockwood and just hit up LCKD, LCKWD, like this hat says, LCKWD Athletics on Instagram, and hit the link. And you can also go on my page, Fabian Alomar Official, and you could find the Lockwood gear. And just press on the link, man. Press on the link that's underneath Bobby D. That's my management. And I'm also an actor, so if you want to get at me and hire me for something or for skin engagements, we could talk about all that, But okay. I'm open and available for many things, and I'm willing to meet people halfway, and you don't have to. It's once this opens up more and we get to where we can meet in person, I would love to sit down with you guys and do this again, and
Absolutely.
Talk about this Saturday. This Saturday, I'm working on a music video that I can't really expose the music video yet, but I'm gonna tell you there's gonna be some special guests like David Hasselhoff and Danny Trejo, and we're shooting for it this Saturday at downtown LA, and I already got COVID tested last night, and I came up negative, and I'm working on my second shot, my vaccine. I'm getting a second one on Saturday morning. I'm going to a Dodger game. I'll be at the Dodger Stadium on Friday at 7:00 to watch them play the Padres. And let's see. I'll be coming out on the Mayan soon. I have a little spot on there. They're working. I mean, it's just a little piece where you're just gonna see my face, or not really, but they're trying to work me. They're trying to work me in for the 4th season. We'll see how that goes, God willing. Like these guys, they want me. Everything coming up, man. It should be good. It's going to be a good year, and I got a few things under my belt already, but I'm working on more, and I'll be doing something in Orange County for the youth and gang drug organization, and I'll be posting about that pretty soon.
Okay.
Things are good, man. Things are good, God willing, I still make a lot of mistakes, but you know what? I recognize them, and now I'm like, I'm still working on myself, So I'm still a work in progress. But
we all are.
Thank you for having me on, man. I love this this podcast, the Black Podcast. Thank you.
We love, we're just so excited about you. And I told you that from the time that we spoke, when I, as soon as I hit you up and you were like, yeah, call me. And I'm like, okay. I'm like,
that was too easy, huh? That was too easy.
You're like, call me. I'm like, okay.
People, hey, Sherelle, people's going to be like, hey, Fabian, why were you on the Black Podcast, Holmes?
Well, and it's so funny because people don't know, they don't read what it means.
They just see black. They don't read it.
They see black, right? So Brian's had the same. People say like, oh, I would watch the show, but it's for Black people. And it's like, well, you know, you have to build your community,
Yeah.
but you have to get everybody involved.
Well, we could
And
just let them know, Sherelle. We could just tell them that, yeah, I'm not black, fool, but check this out. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm Puerto
right.
Rican, and then we can show them my arm and be
We
like,
have the
"There's the
we
flag
got
right there,"
the
and it's
same
like,
challenges. You
yeah,
know, we live in the
exactly.
same world, the same
We people
challenges.
of color. We Mexican, Puerto Rican. We people of color, man.
Absolutely.
No matter.
Exactly. Black and brown, we in the same boat. May not have the same, you know, we're in the same storm, may not be in the same boat, but we have, you know, similar storms.
We black and brown. We all down. That's it.
Absolutely. And I, you know, want to tell you that you're amazing, and you're just you living your life the way that you have, and that's the way that you are. Uh, it's a blessing to me because it really helps to give me confirmation that what I think about when I'm asleep, when I think about when I'm awoke, you know, I'm woke, when I'm driving down the street, when I walk into the schools and I see certain things, your story and listening to you, it just gives me confirmation that yes, what you're doing is what you need to do. Because I even think about when I look at the education system and I said, you know, with all this stuff going around with young black men getting killed, young Hispanic men getting killed, the 13-year-old that just got shot, you know, um, and so many more that we probably don't even hear about, that somebody maybe didn't have a phone at the time to actually record it, you know. Um, I hurt for the kids that I see in school because I said, damn, they come to school and nobody talks about it. You know, it's just like business as usual here, you know, turn to page 59. Like is nobody saying, hey, after school, we're going to have a place that y'all can come and just talk or just let us know how you're feeling. Because it's not like back then where you could just walk down the street. Now you got to be careful of, you know, what's in your back pocket. Because if it's a brush, it may look like something else. Or, you know,
Yep.
if your pants are
Yep.
not tight enough, or and nowadays you don't really even need a reason. You know, they just pull you over, or they just, you know, mess with you because they just feel like it. But I want to tell you that you have been such a blessing to me, you know, to the Black podcast as well. But me, and what Brian are doing, you know, we've created a system where now we're going into the educational system and we're speaking on what our black and brown men need. They need to know who they are as men. They need to know what relationships they need to build. They need to know what boundaries, that it's okay to have boundaries and how to set them. You know, because we can't change the system. I remember we had a past guest and I said, man, how do you feel being, you know, knowing about this broken system? And he said the system's not broken. This was a black man. He said the system's not broken. And I was like, he said the system is doing exactly what they designed it to do, which is to keep us out, you know, and to keep, you know, to keep black and brown out. So if we can just get you through the system and pass you on, we're successful. Um,
We're more successful and more powerful when we come together.
when we come together.
Fact.
And
That's
so
a fact.
I'm just so grateful for you. And I look forward to your journey. I look forward to seeing your progress. And no step that you've taken is small. You know, I look at these steps like, wow. And how dare us think that we have it bad and that we can't make it. You know, I was looking at TD Jakes yesterday and he was saying, with all this stuff that people have gone through and have made it, how dare us sit back and say we can't when the people before us took beatings, dragged through the mud,
Yeah.
and we're driving in nice cars and still talking about we can't do it. So I'm just so grateful for you.
Thank you.
And I sent you that message and I just said I'm just, and I mean it, like I just um you're amazing. You're an amazing man. I don't know if you have a family and stuff, but I'm definitely sure that you'll be an amazing father and husband or whatever you desire to be,
I'm
because
trying
you
to now. Yeah.
hey,
Yeah. It's never too late, you know?
never too late, never too late. And you're definitely on the right track. And I believe that God will continue to open your eyes. And I don't feel like you've even touched the surface of what you're going to be doing. And so appreciate you, and I thank you for being you. And we're going to continue to support you. And if you ever have an event where we can be a part of, we can help, whether it's virtually or whatever, like let us know. Because
Definitely.
we believe, like you said, we in this together. So we have to figure out what we need to do. We just need to come together and be consistent. I
For
think a
sure.
lot of times our Black community, we're not as consistent as we should be. And that's why they don't take us as serious they should, because we'll take a stand for a little bit and then we kind of get back to our normal busy lives, and then we'll take another
Right.
stand. But it always takes us being reactive than proactive. So, let's continue the relationship that we have built this far. And this is not just about a network. This is about a relationship with us, because now every young Black and brown young man that we have that come through our program, we always have someone that we can connect them to. We can say, man, we'll call Fabian right now on the phone, like, and that's what we need. They need to know that they have somebody that they can not only see on TV, but they can hear their voice, they can speak to you. And so I just appreciate you being that person.
And also I also want to say, like, this new thing with TikTok, it's like a lot of kids are into it. So I started a TikTok, and it's at Fabian_Alamar. And so I have a few videos. One of them got like 3.3 million views on it. And kids have recognized me from it. So with that, I kind of want to, it's a whole nother audience. And I'm grateful, because your audience and everything else that I'm doing is just a blessing, man. So I wanna just work on everything that, and stay stay relevant, but with the positive.
That TikTok handle again?
It's at Fabian_Alamar on TikTok.
Okay.
At Fabian_Alamar. And the thing is, like, just to stay relevant with the positive swing in it, like you're gonna see some roles that I'm probably gonna play that are gonna be, negative, but it's a movie. That's not how I am in real life. Those are roles, and I'm sure there's a meaning behind it. That guy dies, or that guy doesn't make it, for whatever the case may be, but everything is for a purpose, and we all have a purpose on this earth, man. So I'm finally realizing, after going through all this, man, that it's not what it. I ain't no sucker. I ain't soft. But I'm gonna tell you right now, that's not the way to go about it. You either wake up before it's too late, because there's only 3 places you're gonna end up. That's on the street if you're lucky, or you're gonna be in prison for the rest of your life if you're lucky, or you're gonna be dead. 3 places. Those 3, and that's the bottom line. You continue this lifestyle of violence and drugs, those are the three spots you're going to end up: on the streets, insane, in prison for life, or dead.
In prison for life and forgotten about.
Yeah, because out of sight, out of mind. Your family and friends are going to be there for only so long, because it's expensive in there. It's expensive to live good. And by what I mean live good is just like having food and new shoes and stuff like you. If you're waiting on the prison system to give you shoes, then they're going to get tired of giving you stuff, because they can only give you one every so often. You got to wait like 6 months, or sometimes 90 days, sometimes longer. Depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
It's expensive, and it's heartbreaking, and it's just time consuming for people out here to be paying attention to anybody that's unless you got no life and you ain't doing nothing, then you got all the time in the world to write letters and do all this stuff. But people who actually work, it's expensive, man. My family, thank God I had a friend of mine named Janet Villa, who came as an angel in disguise and took care of me in prison, looked after me when my family couldn't. They had the right intentions and the means to, but like I said, it's expensive. And, she's been with me through the whole process, and she's like, we're super great friends. And, without her, I wouldn't have survived the way I did, and it couldn't have been this far, even right here doing what I'm doing. So, I want to give her a shout out.
You don't need a bunch of people. You just need one to ride with you. You
don't need a lot.
You don't need a lot.
You just need that one. That one.
Just need that one.
And that goes in anything in life,
Yeah.
So Thank you guys. God bless you guys, man.
Thank
And
you so much.
thank you for having me.
Well, you're amazing, and we are definitely going to make sure we stay connected
That's
and
right.
keep just being you because you're doing it well.
Hey,
Yes.
I've always walked through South Central with no problem. Now I get to walk through South Central and again and be like, maybe they'll be like, hey, oh, they go, oh boy, he was just saw him on the Black podcast, you know? I'm like, hey, man, you know,
Hey,
so hey, I never had a problem ever, but even more so now I could just be like, hey, what's up, you know?
thank
Maybe
you,
roll through the hood of
Fabian.
Texas, man. That's Texas. I
Hey,
can't wait to open up and start going out, you know? So thank you.
yeah, for sure. I'm in Houston, and Brian, he didn't show off his skills. I thought he was going, you know,
What's he got?
Hablo
What
en
kind of
español.
skill? Huh?
Hablando en español.
Oh, habla español. All right. That's good. So you could pass for the Black-Sican. All right.
Exactly.
I'm gonna bring Brian with me when I come to Cap. I'm like, look, don't play with us because we understand. See, even though I was in El Paso for 12 years, I just learned be quiet, sit down, get off of that, and stop touching them. You know, like so. When I got to Houston, they were like,
Right.
"Are you bilingual?" I'm like, I mean, it
See,
depends. The
you can
cuss
go
words
anywhere. You go anywhere with Brian. Brian, you take him to Miami, he look like Cubano. He
Exactly.
go to New York. Go to New York, you look Puerto Rican or Dominican.
right,
You go
right.
anywhere. So, but you're beautiful. Ain't nobody gonna mess with you.
Thank
Tyrell, you're
you.
beautiful. You're
Thank
gorgeous. So
you.
you
Thank
got
you.
everything going for you. You guys, thank you, man. And I appreciate you guys.
God bless you, and
We're gonna be in touch for sure.
Thank you.
absolutely.
Please, yeah. You
All
guys
right.
got my number, man. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good looking out. Thank you. God bless.
All right. You have a great night,
You too.
sir.
Another great show. I mean, he's just amazing, but it's just crazy to hear the similar stories, that it's the same story. It's the same repeated story. Poverty, the system, the educational system, it's the same story. And as he mentioned, if they can learn how to do things together behind, you know, behind bars, then we have to try to figure out how to make it happen out here. You don't have to like the other person, but we got to learn how to respect one another and how to grow and learn from each other's stories, so that we
Especially
can grow.
especially when you're under a system that is looking at both of you the same. They don't care.
They
Like
don't care.
we put the same target on both of your backs.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Wow. So another great guest. Again, we'll be here every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Time. We have more guests coming and more people coming. But just remember that don't get so caught up in, well, who's that guest, or why they got that person on there? That person's not this or that person. You can grow from anybody's story. You don't have to look like them. You may not have. I didn't even come from the same place as him, but I have grown so much from this conversation. So we have to make sure that you share the stories and that you don't close your mind off so much to where you can't grow, because a lot of us do that. We Until you are able to embrace people's life and what they're doing and their journey, even hearing about somebody else's journey, whether you can relate to it or not, you're going to grow as a person, because there's something that you can take from that and realize that either you went through it or somebody has gone through it, or someone you may come across later on may need to hear, an advice or encouragement or whatever it is. So every relationship that you build is relevant, whether you're learning bad or whether you're learning good.
It's about the message. Just take the message. Not always about the messenger. Take the message and then learn from that message and how you can apply it to your life to either do similar or to avoid. And that's how you can learn it and use the message of anyone. So, like you said, another great guest. I look forward to more and more to come. I hope you all who are watching are getting some value. And like Sherelle continues to say, share it, pay it forward, because maybe you don't specifically connect with the message, but there's someone who's connected with you that needed that. And just
Mhm.
by them hearing that message, they'd say, you know what, I can actually go another day. You know what, I can actually push through this. You know what, I can actually accomplish that, which I thought that I couldn't, but I just watched someone who had a
Who
similar
has
story
gone through. Mm-hmm.
and they did it. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what's your excuse?
What's your
So, on
excuse?
that note, thank you guys for tuning in again. All of you religious listeners that are continuing back over and over, we appreciate you. We actually have our official podcast version of our shows rolling out very shortly. We finally got it put together. So y'all keep an eye out. We're moving on up out here, guys. Moving on up. That's it. Yeah,
They're like, what kind of dance is that? It's my dance.
you feel
It's
it?
called Crazy Sherelle Dance. But again, thank you for your support. We love you. See us here next Thursday at 4 p.m. And don't forget to check us out and our company, HSBA. We are hsba.com, and you can learn more about why we're doing the things that we're doing. You can find the Black podcast there, and you can find our programs that we have for our young Black males and brown males. That we're going to be mentoring and leading. So thank you so much for your support. We love you. Please make sure you share. That is your responsibility. That is what you're going to do today, is you're going to share this video on whatever platform that you're watching on, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook Live or Twitch or whatever. Please make sure that you're going to share it. And we love you, and we will see you very soon. Be blessed, masked up, and everything's a process. Embrace
Yeah,
the process.
definitely. Same place.